Well, the past few years have kind of been slow. Wrath of Cortex didn't do as well as we'd hoped, and... Fish?
This game is one of a kind. I mean, in my 32 years of life on this planet, I don't think I've ever seen a game that's both as fantastic and as terrible as Crash Twinsanity. Now, I love it, don't get me wrong, but is it worth playing if you've never picked it up before? That's a difficult question, but hopefully one will get an answer to by the end of the video. Crash Twinsanity was developed by Traveller's Tales, specifically their Oxford studio, whose sole purpose was to make Crash Bandicoot games. I'm not joking about that. The Oxford studio was created just to make Crash games, including Nitro Kart and Tag Team Racing, but was shut down shortly after Twinsanity released thanks to the franchise, including those racing games I mentioned, being given to other developers instead. So what we're looking at here is the only game developed by Traveller's Tales Oxford. That in itself is kind of fascinating. And here's something else. The game was in development for 2.5 years, which is much more than the Wrath of Cortex had at 12 months. That information came from John Burton, founder of Traveller's Tales, who had a little bit more to say in a live stream that I'll touch on later in the video. For now, let's talk about the story. It's a direct sequel to Crash Bandicoot The Wrath of Cortex, which ended with Cortex and Uka Uka stuck in the Antarctic wastes. It's been 3 years since then, and now that he's defrosted, Cortex is ready to enact his revenge.
Crash! Crash! Where are you, big brother? There's something weird going on in the bay! Come see!
Oh my god. Yeah, so Cortex has this brilliant plan of stunning Coco and disguising himself as her to trick Crash into following him.
Alley-oop! It's true. Blondes do have more fun.
Even more astounding is that Crash seems to fall for it, but then again, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's following Cortex just for a laugh and to inevitably kick his butt. We never truly know what's going on inside that fuzzy marsupial's brain. Well, actually, I say that, but no, I won't spoil it. Cortex reveals that he's organised the exact opposite of a birthday party, and look, everyone is here. There are a bunch of villain redesigns that you'll only see in this one cutscene, plus Crunch, who obviously just heard birthday party and wanted to treat his new brother to a bit of cake. Crunch should have had more screen time in my opinion. It was one of the best parts of the Wrath of Cortex. Oh, and look, here's Polar, who's mad at Crash for some reason. Probably had enough of the riding sequences. Anyway, this is the first boss fight of the game, and it's not too difficult. Engine shows up with an awesome mech, but it goes down just as easily. From here, things get weird. Cortex and Crash, after a bit of a squabble, encounter these big-brained birds called the Evil Twins, who have come from the 10th dimension. They want to suck the goodness out of Crash and Cortex's world and leave it a total wasteland. Reluctantly, Crash and Cortex decide to team up, which is where the main gameplay innovation of Twinsanity reveals itself. You get to play as Crash and Cortex together, sort of. There are sections where you play exclusively as Cortex, but then there are these sections where you play as Crash, but you can pull Cortex along by his crystals.
Crystals!
And do things like throw him across gaps, spin him into enemies, and use his massive head to smash crates. Speaking of smashing things, if you find yourself enjoying the video, don't forget to smash the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future uploads. I'd really appreciate it. All of this cool gameplay takes place in an interconnected world where there are no longer individual levels separated by loading screens. No, this game is structured in a way that allows you to reach different areas on foot. It's the first ever free roaming Crash game. The platforming sections are still mostly linear, but the world design is similar to games like Spyro: A Hero's Tale and Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy. It's that kind of open world. And in this open world, you can find a bunch of gems that unlock supplemental materials in the options menu like concept art. It's similar to the original plan for Wrath of Cortex when it was instead called Crash Bandicoot Worlds and would have been published by Sony. It sounds like it would have been a bit more ambitious than Twinsanity, but it's nice that the idea of a free roaming Crash game did eventually come to fruition. It's such an innovative way to advance a Crash formula, but that's not all, because there's another playable character as well. Say hello to Nina Cortex, Neo's niece. Feels a bit weird just calling him Neo, but we'll go with it.
Put her there, little lady.
Nina was originally planned to be in Traveller's Tales version of Crash and Nitro Kart before it was handed off to Vicarious Visions, so they instead decided to introduce her in Twinsanity. Or at least they thought they would be the ones to introduce her, until they saw the promotional materials for Crash Bandicoot Purple: Ripto's Rampage. That game, made by Vicarious Visions, is the actual debut of Nina Cortex. It's strange that Traveller's Tales had no idea until the game was being shown to the public. Kinda shows how rubbish Vivendi Universal was at keeping studios in the loop. I can only assume that Vicarious Visions Activision's had access to Traveller's Tales plans for Nitro Kart, the original version, and decided to use that concept of Nina Cortex in Crash Purple, but it's a total guess on my part. All I know is that Traveller's Tales were blindsided by it. Anyway, Nina Cortex is a cool character. She's almost totally mute, but she has an extendable mechanical arm and can spin like Crash. That mechanical arm can also act as a grappling hook, which works by grabbing onto these rings. And here's where I need to talk about the controls. They're generally okay, but these Nina grappling sections are really inconsistent. I just couldn't get the timing right at all and ended up having to mash the grapple button to get up, which I also remember having to do when I was a kid, because if you miss one grapple you fall right to the bottom of the wall. Quite annoying. She controls okay apart from that, and so does Cortex. Crash, on the other hand, has a really limited slide jump and doesn't have the ability to crouch jump at all. Also, you have to crouch and slide by pressing the circle button. You can't press the R1 button, which was the case in previous games. I much prefer using R1, so it took a bit of getting used to for me. To be fair, you rarely need to use the slide, but it is required for a few ball puzzles. This game absolutely loves ball puzzles, whether it's rolling bombs into totems or spheres into slots or Cortex into a sewage pipe.
The greatest evil scientist in the world! Stuck in a pipe. How could things get any worse?
The game really throws them at you. I don't mind them except for when Crash loses his grip, which can happen quite a bit. I think this mechanic needed a little more time in the oven, but it's not terrible. A lot of this game needed more polish, to be fair. A lot of it. Crash Twinsanity may have had 2.5 years of development time, but John Burton in that livestream I mentioned earlier said that the project had a lack of focus to the point where Vivendi Universal actually sent someone round to the studio to cancel it. However, that person was so impressed by what he saw of the game that he convinced Vivendi Universal not to cancel it. It's funny how everyone who comes into contact with this game is just like, yes, this game is messy as all hell, but damn is it charming. You have to keep in mind that Twinsanity was the Oxford studio's first game, so that lack of focus was probably just the studio finding its footing, and it's a shame they didn't get another chance to show what they were capable of as a team. But the end result is a game that has cutscenes like this.
I've never been so humiliated.
That's an awfully quiet impact for such a big snowball. So many cutscenes are just devoid of sound effects, and it's really strange. And the hitboxes aren't incredible either. Dealing with these spear-wielding tribespeople is a bit annoying, and the same goes for quite a few more enemy types. Let's just say you might be losing Aku hits and even lives more often than you were expecting. And whatever you do, don't even touch this boss after the fight's all done and dusted, before you reach the next checkpoint. For some reason, touching it will kill Crash outright and he'll respawn at the latest checkpoint, so if you don't reach that next checkpoint, you'll have to replay the boss fight. It's not a particularly difficult boss fight, but it's just a waste of time. Speaking of checkpoints, there's one large gap where there absolutely should have been one. I reached a boss fight, one I won't spoil, but I lost the fight because Cortex inexplicably stopped being able to fire his weapon. So you'd think that there might have been a checkpoint just before it, right? Wrong. The most recent checkpoint was actually in a Nina Cortex section, so I had to finish the last part of that, then switch over to Cortex again, which was a massive waste of time. And then after you finish the boss fight, there isn't actually a checkpoint until you switch over to Crash, which only takes about a minute or so, but still that's too long when you have to take a moving platform out of the boss fight, so that if you were to fall down the pit after beating it, you'd have to replay the end of Nina's section again and the boss fight. It's just so... The next annoyance I want to mention is Aku and Uka Uka's invincibility power-up. In this game, it's basically useless. It doesn't protect you against nitro or TNT crates, so in sections like this, where Cortex is running away from a swarm of bugs, surrounded by nitros and TNTs, you'll still end up exploding if you don't move out of the way. In previous Crash games, the invincibility mask protected you against all damage and even destroyed enemies on impact. Here, I think the only thing it does is protect you from enemy attacks, which sounds more useful than it actually is. Anyway, you know the drop shadow, which is an integral part of any 3D platformer? The shadow that appears below the character so you know where they're gonna land? It does exist in this game, but only on certain surfaces. It doesn't appear on these metal crates, for example, which is a problem when you need to make precise jumps over a large drop or the ocean. Actually, I noticed here in Engine's ship that you can see the shadow far below the metal crates, so it's probably just some kind of bug they never ironed out. It's worse when you have to rush through a section, and I'm talking about this particular bit here in the Academy of Evil, where where you have to escape from a rising pool of toxic waste. It's a bit of a nightmare, which to be fair, does fit the evil vibe of the Academy. But speaking of the Academy of Evil, even though it has annoyances like that, it's just so damn good. It's hands down my favourite area in the game. The atmosphere is just incredible. A large part of it might be to do with the music, which is 100% a cappella by a group called Spiral Mouth. It's one of the best soundtracks in the entire franchise, and the Academy of Evil is one of the best parts of that soundtrack. But the visuals are also fantastic, with overly exaggerated lines and colours and NPC designs that make it feel like something out of a Tim Burton movie. A good Tim Burton movie. I remember reaching this area as a kid and being blown away. The whole twisted prep school vibe, breaking Nina out and then running from a flying bus acting as a wrecking ball because Crash tied Cortex's airship to it instead of something secure, was and is one of the best experiences I've had in a Crash game. It's so good. This is the thing about Crash Twinsanity. Despite all the jank, it has an adventurous spirit that's hard to be mad at, especially when it has stuff like this. And also this.
Coming through! Ladies? Excuse me, madam. Are those real? Mother?
Also, you can stand on Papu Papu earlier in the game without any consequences. He's just like a mannequin or something. Actually, you know what? Because this game is so fourth wall breaking, so self-deprecating, the unfinished nature of it feels like it's part of the joke. If there was any game that could pull off being an unfinished mess, it's this one. But what really brings this game all together is Lex Lang's voice acting as Cortex. It was his first time in the role, and he plays the character in a way that's so much more comedic. I love what Clancy Brown did with the character in the original games all the way up to Nitro Kart, and I love how sinister he was, but Lex Lang's punching bag version of the character is just so fun to watch and listen to.
Dr. Cortex, what have you done?
Who are these evil upstarts?
I've ruined the lives of so many. I can't be expected to remember them all.
And I can't ignore the fact that this was Mel Winkler's last performance as Aku Aku. He does a great job here, especially when he proposes handing Cortex over to the evil twins.
If we deliver him to the evil twins, perhaps they will spare us.
Never knew you had it in you, Aku Aku. Here's a fun fact I wasn't sure where to place in the script. This game has a surprising connection to Ratchet & Clank. The original plot for the game, when it was still called Crash Bandicoot Evolution, was that the evil twins were going to take Insanity Island and make it part of a new planet formed from the chunks of other planets. But that was so close to the plot of Ratchet & Clank 1 that Traveller's Tale scrapped the idea completely. I just thought that was a neat bit of trivia. There was actually a ton of cut content for this game, but there are plenty of other YouTube videos that can tell you that in more detail. What we're going to do now is answer the question I posed earlier. Should you play this game if you've never touched it before? And the answer, I think, is yes. You should go in knowing that it's janky as heck and will likely frustrate you at times, but the adventure and the voice acting and the music and the visuals are just worth the pain. They really are. Crash Twinsanity is an incredible mess.
I don't know whether to kiss you or kill you!
And honestly, with all the remakes being pumped out nowadays, this is one game that truly deserves it. I would love to see a modern version that restores all the cut content and irons out all of the bugs. But most of all, I just want those drop shadows. Oh, but you didn't think you were getting out of here without seeing Rusty Walrus, did you?
Ah, yummy! Fresh meat for my pot.
I think this guy has traumatized an entire generation. Thanks for watching this look back at Crash Twinsanity. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos, and smash that like button. Have a great day or night wherever or whenever you are, and I will see you next time.